All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Flux TV. I am your host, Carlin Hicks, and welcome to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterey, California for tonight's 2021 Season 2 Round 7 of the Flux IndyCar Championship here at Laguna Seca. We are looking forward to an exciting event. We saw a fantastic We've seen a fantastic Laguna Seca weekend so far here on the Flux American Tour. Last night's American Sports Car Championship race was a doozy, with NZ Jack picking up his second win of the season. But tonight we are here for the Indy cars at the world famous Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, henceforth referred to as Laguna Seca Raceway. When Mazda's paying me, I'll call it what they want. All right, let me get my stats and all this pulled up for you. As usual here, 20 minutes qualifying session followed by a 45-minute feature, and I think the drivers were talking about in the pre-race quite openly. The story of this race is going to be survival more than anything. It's very easy. These cars can be quite delicate, as you know. We will discuss them a little as we do every week. But let's get out onto the 2.2 mile circuit here at Laguna Seca in California. We will start with our current points leader, and that is Taijo right there in the number 18 Dallara Honda. Little talk about the cars as we do every week. The Indy cars use a common spec chassis. It is a Dallara chassis from the Dallara company of Italy. They are manufactured right here in the U.S. in Indianapolis, Indiana. Every team gets the Dallara chassis. They get aero kits of two configurations for oval and speedway racing, and a higher downforce kit for road and street circuit racing, which is the one you see here. They then have their choice of Honda or Chevy power plants, and that makes for extremely close, extremely exciting racing. These cars, also a little difference here in qualifying. They have an open turbo boost in qualifying, gives them about 50 to 75 more horsepower. But during the race, and we will monitor it during the race and talk about it, these cars each get 10 push to pass. It's a 10-second, about a 75 horsepower boost. It's basically opening up the turbo boost that is closed off for race trim. And you briefly get that turbo boost for about a 10-second burst. Now, how and when those guys use those 10 push to pass during the race could be an absolute key. Enough with the technical stuff. Now talking about Taijo. He comes in as the current points leader, holds a healthy but not insurmountable 24-point lead heading in. He has 3 podiums on the season and a fastest lap, but does not have a win as of yet. Taijo's still looking for that first career Flux IndyCar win. Nonetheless, he comes in here as the points leader and really doesn't need to win a race to win the championship. He just needs to stay consistent here over these last 2 races here. And I think here at Laguna Seca, being a road racing specialist himself, Taijo's got to be thinking, just get a good finish here, because you don't know about the coin flip that the season finale at the Texas Motor Speedway on the 1.5 mile speedway can be. But Taijo's had an excellent season, as I said, 3 podiums, 1 fastest lap. He has been very consistent in that Honda, and it's been a season that's seen a lot of guys come up and down. We're going to see a lot of rubber banding, guys getting damaged, guys having to make recovery drives. It's led to a lot of surprises over the course of the season, and thus far, Taijo comes in just needing to put himself in a position. He runs full-time on the American Tour, ran here in the ASC race last night, and he had his Ford GT going pretty well, but got banged around a little bit and took a bit of a hit in the points there. So we'll see if he can pull it together here in practice, or in IndyCars. Coming in second in the points in the number 11 Hydroxy Cut Chevrolet. That is It's Your Boy Squash. Squash comes in with 2 podiums and 2 pole positions on the season. We saw him earn the victory in the season opener at the Daytona International Speedway on the 2.5-mile super speedway, and he has had an up and down season since. He has missed a race. He's gotten into a couple of incidents over the course of the season, but his performances have been so solid. As I said, 2 podiums, 2 poles. Factor in those bonuses, along with the fact that, as I said, the series has gone back and forth so much this season. He comes in with 127 points. He's 24 behind Taijo, so he really needs to push and get every last bit that he can. But Squash is a fantastic driver. We'll see if he can get that hydroxy cut up there. 3rd place in the points is Cat Guy. Cat Guy, unfortunately, could not make the race this weekend, and that is just about going to take him out of championship consideration. But the driver coming in here 4th in the points is Mick Toasty in the number 10 NTT Data Chevrolet. Excuse me. Mick Toasty coming in, sitting on 113 points. He's 38 points behind the leader, Taijo. Now, he's definitely well within range to get himself on the podium for the season, but with 2 races to go, 38 points going to be tough to do without Taijo and Squash having some problems in front of him. But as I said, we have seen so many changing of positions this season that you never really know. McToasty got his first career IndyCar victory earlier this season at Long Beach, and he has a runner-up finish as well, giving him 2 podiums, a pole position, and 2 fastest laps on the season. Once again, putting him in a position when you're 38 points down in 4th place, you really just can afford to go for broke. Just try to go with an aggressive setup, run an aggressive race, and try to get yourself out front, because you really need those guys up front to have some problems if you're going to get back into it. All right, 5th place in the points coming in is the longtime veteran, the Aussie in the 22 Menards Chevrolet. That is Muttley. Muttley got his first podium in his Flux IndyCar career last week at Watkins Glen, a race where he really just grinded his way up, qualified, I believe, in 8th, and just steadily moved his way up through the field. Muttley is a driver, puts up a fairly good pace at some tracks in race trim, not known as a qualifier. Right now, sitting in the early part of the qualifying session here, 5th of the 9 cars that have posted a time. But Muttley will be thinking about the same thing he was last weekend. He was thrilled. I talked to him before the race. He was thrilled with the first podium in last week's race at Watkins Glen. Said it was a long time coming. He worked at it, had a race where he avoided problems, stayed out of trouble. And I think he's confident in his strategy here, but as he says, Laguna Seca can be such a crapshoot that he's thinking that he's just going to try to stay out of any issues, and if he can manage to do that, possibly have a shot at moving up. 6th place in the points is Survivor, running in the number 7 Doom Honda. Survivor, we expected a little more out of this season, thought he might contend for the podium and possibly even for the championship. Has not been on the podium yet this season, but he has been steadily getting quicker in that car. Developed it well last season, running in for the DHL colors a season ago. But Survivor has definitely, I think the loss, his teammate Green Gaiman not running full time and not having them bouncing the setups and the car ideas off of each other may have hurt them. But comes in here 6th in the points and well within range of moving up. Not by any means out of, only 20 points out of 3rd place in the championship. So very much a lot to race for Survivor, racing in 6th. Coming in 7th is the rookie. That's Haynes' dad in the 83 Dallara Chevy. And you're talking about a driver who has shown his promise this season. He's got a podium, and that podium was a doozy. Got his first career and thus far only Flux IndyCar win at Willow Springs earlier this season. Another Aussie driver following a long tradition of Australian drivers coming over to race in the IndyCar championship. And he was terrific at Willow Springs, and knows that the track itself, the layout, not significantly similar, but with the sand and I would say the grip levels and whatnot being similar, maybe Haynes has something here. He's been fast elsewhere, hasn't been able to duplicate that terrific run at Willow Springs. But as I said, he comes in 7th in the points himself and is by no means completely out of moving up. 8th place in the points, right on his tail, is the guy we are expecting to see a lot out of, and we're going to be watching for a couple of reasons. That is the number 9 Target Chevrolet of Bruce Law. Bruce comes in looking for a number of things. He is looking to win his 3rd straight Flux IndyCar race, as he has won the last 2, winning 2 weeks ago at Road America. He followed it up with a victory at Watkins Glen last week, and so he could become the first driver to win 3 consecutive Flux IndyCar races. Now, if he succeeds in doing that, Bruce would also tie the record for career victories in the Flux IndyCar Championship, albeit started this season. This is the 2nd season of competition. Cat Guy's 4 wins on his way to the championship last season sit as the record. A win here today for Bruce would tie that mark. And he has run part-time, coming over here only for select races, mostly only the road circuits. But you got to wonder what could have been. He's sitting on 72 points. He's got 2 wins this season. He won. Furthermore, he is the defending winner of this race. Bruce got his first win in the Flux IndyCars last season here. So he is also the defending race champion. So lots of storylines. Can he repeat as the Laguna Seca IndyCar champion? Can he repeat and he win his 3rd straight race to set a record in the Flux IndyCar Championship? And can he win his 4th Flux IndyCar race to tie the overall record? So a lot of storylines here for Bruce, racing out of 8th. I don't see Mark C in the entry list here in 9th, nor Remy in 10th. Ed Yeager, however, in the number 6 preferred Chevrolet. Ed, an oval and speedway specialist more than anything. We've seen him on a part-time basis this season, but Ed, a long-time veteran of the IndyCar Championship and the American Tour races. Ed had himself a podium run at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway earlier this season, so we know, as I said, he can run these cars, and in former sanctioning bodies he has been on the podium in the road course configuration of these as well. But Ed, so far this season on the road courses, has struggled a bit getting the car up to speed and mainly staying out of trouble. He has looked terrific on the speedways, and I think that in next week's race at Texas Motor Speedway in the season finale, he will definitely be a contender for the win. But we'll see if he can pull something together here right now, not putting the car up to pace the way he would like. And that about covers our field. 7 minutes, 20 seconds left in qualifying. Give you a little camera cycle here with the guys here in qualifying, as we'll see if McToasty just came out and put up a 106.6, so he took the pole back from Bruce. And looks like Mad Dog's trying to get through inspection. Don't know if he's going to be able to pull that off. He might have a hard time last few minutes here. He's having some kind of trouble getting through inspection. And those are the spots where you're going to see some buildup of the sand. The Live Track 2.0 will give us not just the rubber building up, as you can see there through the famous corkscrew, but you're going to see a lot of sand start pulling up onto the track. And as these tires wear, ooh, and Muttley just disconnected, so you know he's going to have to hustle his way back in here to avoid missing inspection. So we are having all kinds of technical issues here in the room. Muttley definitely wants to hustle to do that. He comes in 5th in the championship points and looking to move up and finish on the season podium. So little problems down there in the Menards pit. Let's get in the cockpit here with It's Your Boy Squash, winner earlier this season at Daytona Don't recall exactly if he picked up a win last season. I believe the Daytona win was his first Flux IndyCar win. And still a championship contender. As I said, he comes in here 24 points back from Taijo. And he definitely needs to finish ahead of him by as much as possible heading into Texas. But Squash is a fantastic speedway racer as well. And I think that's one of the things that Taijo's got to be thinking about coming into this race. Taijo, not as experienced on the speedways as It's Your Boy Squash is, so he's definitely going to want to give himself a little bit of a margin for error coming into next week. He doesn't want to lose ground heading into the finale at Texas Motor Speedway because he wants to have enough to where anything happens next week, a decent recovery drive will still secure the championship. As he said, as they sit 24 points, I'd have to do my math, but you're looking at somewhere around an 8th or 9th place finish would be enough to clinch it in one, for one race. So we'll have to see how Taijo plays it. Taijo was very aggressive last night in the American Sports Car Championship race, but that's a totally different animal altogether. He was in a different position in the points than he is right now. But knowing Taijo, Taijo is a driver. He's a hard driver and a driver who races to win. So I don't know that it will affect what he does all that much. Currently sitting 5th in qualifying, 2.3 seconds back of the top time. Now this is definitely a track, not just because of the aforementioned turbo boost that gets turned down in race trim. Not just for that reason, but for the fact that the way that the tire wear is going to be here, the necessity of a pit stop, because of all of those things, you're going to see a lot of changes. It doesn't, you might be 2 seconds off in qualifying trim, I'm saying, but that does not necessarily translate to the race trim. Really, it's about your track position, and this place, track position is just vital here. It's so hard to pass. The later in the race you get, the track gets dirtier, it's going to be hard to pass. We'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. I hope Muttley can get back in here, as he's down to about 20 seconds. Otherwise, he's going to be in danger of missing inspection. And if that's the case, I possibly might have him up here in the booth with me, but that would be a shame because we're looking forward to seeing Muttley competing and contending here tonight after his podium last week at Watkins Glen. He's flying high, and he may have just missed the cutoff, and that would be a shame. Haynes' dad just put up a 1:08.9, got him up to 3rd overall. McToasty and Bruce Law right now in a class of their own in qualifying trim. As you can see right there, that sand can catch you out. And it may be Muttley's in the booth here with me. Muttley, did you miss the cutoff?
Yeah.
That's a damn shame, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she just blew a motor and
didn't have time to get it repaired before the race, huh?
yeah. I think it was maybe Mad Dog going in and out. I don't know. Just because I sort of come around that hairpin and thought, well, we're not going to do a good lap here. I had a next lap invalidated, and I thought, well, just push, go back to the pits, and that was it. She froze up. So yeah.
Well, the way it looks right now, you get those guys to go ahead and fix that thing over the week and figure out what's wrong with it, and you're looking at Survivor finishes, and he'll move past you, but Haynes' dad, Bruce Law, they're not really in positions to move up much on you. They're not guys you're racing against, really. So, with Cat Guy missing out, Survivor, if he doesn't finish too high, you're not losing much. You're going to go into that final race with still a shot at racing for 5th, 4th, and maybe even 3rd in the championship. It all depends on how it shakes out.
Yeah, I'd rather be
in the car.
Racing.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I was saying to the viewers here, at the moment, raw speed on the track, McToasty and Bruce Law are in a class of their own, but this is one of those places, we've said it before, you could be 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds off in qualifying trim, but in the race trim, it's totally different in the Indy cars. Not just because of the turbo boost, but because of the way you have to manage the tires. Real briefly, 30 seconds, talk about that, Mudley.
Yeah, well, that wasn't my chassis I was running. Itchy Boy Squash sent me a chassis just before I got over to talk to you previous before the thing, and that was the one I was just, trying out, giving a spin, going, this doesn't feel too bad, and pulled out that lap time on it, and I went, well, that's a bit faster than what I've been doing. I'm going to run this. And then so I mean, the Bruce Laws and the Matosti's been really quick out at the moment. Once the engine power drops off, how the other boys going to go with their cars? I think it will even out. I think if Bruce Law and Matosti sort of get a gap on them, then they'll may sail off into the sunset. But I reckon if they can keep hold of them and keep their cars in the driving line, it'll be up to anybody to win.
Yeah, no, like just Piddlin did that last night in the ASC race, and I thought that's the kind of performance we could see here tonight. We could see somebody try to hang as best they can, and I think there's a real good chance that you might see a surprise or two. That you're going to see.
You get a fast pit stop like some people did last week, and they'll shoot you up 1 or 2 spots, and that's might be just what you need, to get a bit of clean air on your own and run your times. And I'm thinking the 106s and 7s you're seeing at the moment are going to blow out to 8, 9, and 10, at least.
Yeah, they
10,
will. Speaking of which,
10,
let's give them the starting lineups here for the Flux Motorsport.
I can't see at the moment.
Starting lineups for the Flux Motorsport 2021 Season 2 IndyCar Championship Round 7 here at Laguna Seca. Starting on the pole and picking up that vital bonus point is McToasty in the NTT Data Chevy, a 106.655. Terrific run for him. Bruce Law looking to get that third straight win, puts the Target Chevrolet on the outside of the front row. Starting third, your Willow Springs winner, Haynes' dad, qualifying in third. He'll be flanked on the outside of row 2 by It's Your Boy Squash, the winner at Daytona. Starting fifth will be the points leader, Taijo, in the number 18 black and green Chevrolet. He'll be flanked on the outside of row 3 by Just Piddlin. Starting seventh will be Survivor in the Doom Honda. He'll be flanked on the outside of row 2 by Ed Yeager in the preferred number 6 Chevrolet. Starting ninth will be Mad Dog 456 in the DHL Honda, and he will be alone on the final row. 9 starters here with Muttley's misfortune, and we'll see how this pans out. Looks like, as we said, McToasty and Bruce Law clearly the fastest thus far in race in the qualifying trim, I should say. But you're going to be 75 horsepower less. You've got to run on heavier fuel tanks. The tire wear's brutal. There's many different ways to go with the tire strategy here. You've got the primary, the harder tires, the alternate red, softer tires. You've got combinations thereof. I used to run here with a combined set whenever I raced Laguna Seca. So there's just so many variables. The guys are going to have to pit for fuel and tires. There's going to be, there's possibility of damage. It's just going to be a crapshoot. And with the championship on the line, I mean, who knows? That's why we're here to see. Looks like it should be a good race.
Yeah, definitely. These cars are in now. Like you said, a 75% horsepower less, and they only get 10 seconds of extra boost with the turbo. So the lap times are going to be, 107s, 108s. I can see for the whole race. You know what I mean? Even with the push to pass, the car's not at that top speed all the way around the track, so
That's a good point, Mully. This is not the type of place that you use the push to pass, making time. There's not really a place to do that. You need to save those 10 for when the beginning of the race and when you need to pass somebody. because, I mean, what good is it going to do you to hit the push to pass on the Rahal straight? You're running over bumps, you're veering off to the left, you're coming up to the corkscrew. There's no straight long enough to take advantage of it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
all right, we lost somebody else here.
Technical,
but it looks like McToastie's going to lead us down. That was Mad Dog.
Mad Dog, yeah.
All right, and we are green, and they're going to be hitting those push to pass here at the beginning. McToastie coming down to turn 1. Bruce under pressure from It's Your Boy Squash on the inside. Looks like a pretty clean start there from the front row. With just 8 cars, these guys being pretty clean. It looks like Ed Yeager taking it real easy going through the back. Now a good a time as any to hop on the drone cam. Ooh, a Survivor goes wide there in the sand out of turn 4. Taijo, the points leader, sitting in 5th. You can see these guys just trying to settle in right now. And with the field the size that it is, I wouldn't be surprised to see that really here in the early going. Guys just wanting to get into a groove, don't want to throw the race away as they come through the corkscrew the very first time here. And you can see that front right tire getting pretty light. Haynes' dad fell back to 4th as it looks like Squash got him off the start. But they're settling in right here. McToastie in 1st. He's got Bruce Law right back on him. It's Your Boy Squash in 3rd. Haynes' dad 4th. Taijo 5th.
Yeah, it's pretty close battle, but it looks like Bruce is right on him.
This is the one race I like to take a look at the push-to-pass numbers. McToastie used 1 already, as did Bruce. Squash didn't hit 1. Haynes didn't hit 1. Now, these guys are saving them. Survivor hit 1. Yeah, these guys are definitely saving them. This is not, like I said, a couple weeks ago at Road America, good chance that I might use it on the straights, especially towards the end of the race, if just to try to pick up some time. But here, there's really no place to use them unless you're making a move, and it's so tough to pass here that I'm just going to save it, really.
And also, the other thing you got to factor in is your fuel consumption. You push to pass. It takes a chunk load of fuel out of your car, and if at the moment early on, it doesn't matter. You can cover that with the pit stop, but after your pit stop, you use 1 or 2, then you're shortening your lap. How many laps you can do. So that's what I learned last week.
You brought up a great point, and that's a great anecdote. IndyCar race, probably 8 or 9 seasons ago. Ooh, as just Piddling gets a little loose in the Andretti hairpin. Now he's got Survivor all over him. But we were running at Willow Springs, the Willow Springs round, 8 or 9 seasons ago. And I was in control of the race. Won the pole. Came out, was fortunate enough to get ahead of the cars, at the start while the guys were fighting, built up a lead. Had myself in pretty good shape. I used a long strategy where I was maybe making 1 less pit stop than the rest of the field. As somebody went around, and is that Taijo? Taijo's gone around. And our points leader all the way back to 7th now, so he's seeing the early problems already. Going to have to make at least a mild recovery drive as he's now 13 seconds back. But checking in back at the front. Anywho, last pit stop, it was a 200-mile race. So the last pit stop, I had a fast car catching up to me at the end of the race, and I had my push to pass saved up, and I was using him. He was within about a second, 2 seconds, and instead of, I didn't wait until he got on me to use him. I thought to myself, I don't want to let him get this close. So every time I thought he was on the push to pass on the straightaway, I would hit it last handful of laps. Well, I wasn't paying attention to what that was doing to my fuel. And on the last lap, I ran out with half a lap to go and handed the race over to him. So that's a great point, Muttley. You definitely got to pay attention to it. It's simple, but I would have been better off, A, if I had known for sure where my fuel was using the push to pass, and B, there is an argument to be made. Don't use them until you need them. Bruce Law in the winning streak right now. If I recall correctly, and maybe it's possibility that the telemetry is not showing us right, but he has not used in those 2 wins more than 1 or 2 push to pass. As a matter of fact, I think last week he had all 10 of them left when the race ended. So there's an argument to be made. Don't use them unless you have to.
Well, I mean, the thing about that is he lengthens his run in his car. So those who use maybe 1 or 2 will have to come in earlier. That's how I see it. You know what I mean?
That's another good point. Obviously, the way you pit, the out lap, the in lap, all vitally important. It also is very important, if you're good on a light fuel old tires, then staying out longer will benefit you because you'll be running a hot lap while guys are coming up to speed. The flip side of that is if you give away a lot of time because you burn your tires, then short pitting will benefit the other guy because he's on fresh tires while you're on older tires. It all depends on how you drive and a variety of factors. But here's the reason Bruce is such a championship driver, reigning LMP2 champion, I believe, from the European Tour last season, and why he's got 3 career wins and 2 in a row here in the Flux IndyCar Championship. He's battling right now with McToasty, but look how smooth he's being. He's not. He's thinking about passing him, but he's not getting too close. Doesn't want to be in a position where he gets caught up if McToasty puts a wheel wrong or something. He's just still running smooth. If you blanked out that car in front of him, this would look like a practice lap. He's just taking it real easy. And what he's doing is something when I ran my race team, I used to preach to my drivers all the time is, at this point in the race, you just want to get into your groove. And what that means is exactly what it is here. Yeah, you got a position to race for. Yeah, take it when you can. But the important thing right now is he's running along. That last lap was a 1:11.8. They're lapping faster than the guys behind them. As long as I'm keeping up with this guy in front of me and we're making time on the guys behind us, I'm thinking to myself, I can take care of him later. I'll deal with him later. Let's get the rest of these guys out of the picture for now. And that's why Bruce is so successful. It's not just your speed on the track. It's more than just your speed on the track. It is a variety of things, and there's one of them. He makes the pass on McToasty in the Andretti hairpin right there on the outside, held McToasty down to the inside. That's a move also that you don't make unless you trust the other driver, unless you know that he'll see you and that he'll react accordingly. McToasty didn't have anywhere to take that turn, and because he's a smart, clean driver, Bruce Law made the move and got by him. So we'll see if McToasty has anything for him.
And we were talking about that to him in pre-race as well. I was talking about him like knowing who you're with and, can you hold your lines, you know what I mean? And I was sort of preaching to the choir as you do pre-race at turn 1, if you both know you can hold your line, you can get 2 cars through there, and that shows it. Those 2 guys gave each other enough room to get past each other without dinging fenders.
Yeah, and it's something that wings. Yeah, it's something as simple as the fact that McToasty, if he just washes out slightly, doesn't have to make contact, then at the very least Bruce has to get off of it. He has to go up into the marbles. He's going to lose momentum, and then you guys line back up, and all of a sudden 3rd and 4th place are 3-4 seconds closer. That's the kind of stuff that at this point in the race, you're on lap 8 and there's 36 minutes to go. It's not really worth it to fight that hard for it. Now, if McToasty keeps dropping lap times like he is to Bruce Law, he's going to wish he fought harder at this point. But Bruce Law, as It's Your Boy Squash goes around, and that's going to have championship implications, comes in second in the points. And there goes Taijo, the guy he's racing. I don't know if there's any wing damage here. He lost it right out of there out of 1, 2, 3, 4, out of turn 5. Don't know. And car looks okay.
Yeah,
but
I can't see anything.
Yeah, it's not hard to bend up the suspension arm, though, on these things and not really be able to detect it. That's a tough situation right there. He comes in needing to get every single point he can on Taijo, and now he's going to have to fight back up through the field. But we'll see. I've seen Squash do that on multiple occasions in his sim racing career. I've seen him come from back of the field to the front more than once. So as long as he reels it in, gets himself calmed down, there's no reason why he can't. But we discussed it in the pre-race that that's where you'll see problems in those corners where you'll start to see some buildup. You don't just have rubber marbles to deal with as the track builds up. You have dirt, sand, and that's just like driving across, broken glass or something. I've raced at a place before in go-karts when I was growing up that was basically built out. It was on the beach, and you couldn't keep the sand off the track, and you kind of compensated with your tires. So let's see if he can pull it back together. Taijo, meanwhile, started fifth, still in fifth, trying to move up on Survivor. Meanwhile, Haynes' dad, who was chasing Squash, has moved into third place. And he's got Survivor on his tail.
Yeah, Survivor's pretty close.
Survivor's moving in on him just a little over about a second and a half. You'll see him pop up right there. That little kink on the front stretch is turn 1. The Andretti hairpin here is turns 2 and 3. Got a little check in here. Let's take a look at Mad Dog checking in. He had some problems right at the start with the motor, just like Muttley. Unfortunate to see that. But nearing down the end of the season. Looking forward to 2021 Season 3. Looking forward to filling the fields back up. This is still going to be a fine race. He's got a lot of pressure coming on him from Survivor here as we get into the cockpit with Survivor. Let's put the commentator's pressure on Survivor and give him our track walk here, running out of 4th place in the Doom Honda. You come off the final turn up the front stretch here. It's going to kink to the left here in turn 1 as you head down towards the Andretti hairpin. Now this is where you build up. You are full speed. Now right here it's hard on the brakes, downshifting hard. I like to stay to the inside. Some guys like to ride the outside. You'll get very loose if you try to clip it too hard there. Now you go through turn 4. Once again, it's an off camber, pushes you to the left. You don't want to get too far out there as he fought it a little there. Turn 5, similar situation right there. They're all pushing you off to the sand. Survivor doing pretty well here. Down into turn 6. This one has a little bit of banking to help hold you, but you cannot try to take it too sharp on the inside or it too will kick the car around. Turn 7 here, leading onto the Rahal Straight. Very well taken. You see him running a pretty loose car, and now down to the famous corkscrew. Watch this sucker fall away. It's like dropping off of a 6-story building. Boom. All the way down. He handles it beautifully. This corner right here, very difficult spot right there. This section also wants to throw you around, and especially when the tires get worn, guys start the car starts wanting to dance out from you. And that is a lap at the 2.2 mile Laguna Seca Raceway. I want to remind our viewers and fans, please don't forget, press like and subscribe, help support our channel. If you would like to become a driver or to get involved as a broadcaster, find our merchandise discounts on our partners and affiliates, go to www.fluxmotorsport.com, press the driver sign up button and join our Discord to get in on all the action. We have a full plate of racing both on the European and American Tour. The American Tour weekend here at Laguna Seca has been fantastic with last night's American Sports Car Championship race as we saw NZ Jack pick up the win there. Right now, looking to see it stabilize. Bruce Law about 4 seconds out in front. As you refer to the map, you can see his arrow. He's on the same straight there as McToasty back in second.
Yeah, he's new some push to passes. He's down to 7 by my screen.
Who's that, Bruce Law?
Yeah.
I believe that would have been when he made the move. That's got to be when he made the move, and because he's going to settle in now, and McTosty's just going to have to wait and see. Now this
down
is
to 5.
Yeah, so he's waiting on his. If I was McToasty, this is where I'm thinking about going off strategy here. Maybe short pit, long pit, something different. I'm going to try something different to shake things up. Hopefully you got a couple of game plans laid out, contingency plans. Because Bruce is not a guy that you can count on making the mistake to give it back to you, but that's a lot of brake smoke coming into the corkscrew. I don't know if that's cause for concern, but let's see if we see it anywhere else on the track.
Yeah, if you do it on the thing, it tells you normally if you do it 2 or 3 times, be careful with your flat pots, flat spotting a tyre.
I'd watch that, because definitely if you can easily get some brake fade and wear on your tires here. Bruce at the moment, though, just continuing to lap 110.3, a 110.5 for McToasty, so he's just holding them off pretty steadily here. And they've got quite a gap back to Haynes' dad and Survivor, who's now under pressure from Ty Joe.
Yeah, he's doing a 111. What's his lap time this time? 112, yeah.
They're not quite up to the pace of these front runners, but they're keeping the car underneath them, and that's really thus far been a pretty good key. Let's get in the cockpit of that Honda of our points leader, Ty Joe. Ty Joe in an interesting position here. As I said, he's the points leader coming in. He has yet to win a race. I won a Trans Am Series championship without winning a race, and I batted off all. You know how I took care of that, Muttley, whenever I got a snide comment about that? I held up the trophy and said, you guys make excuses, I'll polish the trophy. So at the end of the day, the reason he's up here, despite the fact he hasn't won a race, he's been on the podium 3 times in 6 races. He's been consistent. And I've often said to drivers that what makes you a championship driver as opposed to a guy who wins races and whatnot. And I know from experience of trying to win championships, and I was a race winner long before I was a champion. And I said the biggest thing that does that is, it's not so much that, okay, you win a race or 2 and you put up 3 or 4 podiums. All the top guys do that. When you have a bad race, was that bad race a 7th? Was that bad race a 9th? Or was that bad race a DNF or a 14th or a 13th? That's the difference. My first sim racing championship was in a late model stock car. And at the end of the season, I won the championship by 2 points. And there was one race earlier in the season where I got spun out with about 10, 12 laps to go at a 1.5-mile track by a guy who wasn't using his head. And I was running in the front of the field all the way to the back. I restarted in 14th and had about 8 laps to go. And drive of my life and a lot of luck, I came through the field and finished 3rd. And those points are what ultimately won the championship. So basically what it boils down to is you get to the point Ty Joe's in, because even when things don't go your way, when you don't win, when you don't get on the podium, you're finishing in the top half. A bad day for him has been a 6th or a 7th. It hasn't been a DNF or a 11th, 12th, 13th. And because of that, he has been able to steadily pile up the points despite not winning a race. And at the end of the day, the championship trophy and the champion's check and the swag for the Flux IndyCar Championship goes to the guy with the most points. And right now, sitting in 5th, right where he started, but he is right on top of Haynes, Survivor in 3rd and 4th. So these guys are going to be battling for a spot on that podium. Haynes' dad wants on there after the victory at Willow Springs. He hasn't been back on the podium. And Survivor, who hasn't been on the podium all season, wants to get there. So they got all to play for.
The front runners are all similar in the fuel go. The one that's a little bit out of whack for me is just Pedlin. Maybe went with a bit of a lighter tank than the rest for some reason or other. It's just Just seems to be a bit different to the rest. But
as you speak, Haynes' dad hits the pit lane from third place here, and this, I would say, qualifies maybe not completely, not really an early pit or a short pit, but somewhat of a short pit. Going to take fuel and tires. We'll see if he can take some kind of advantage. He's definitely trying to make something happen, or he thinks this is his best bet for staying out in front of the guys he's with. He has run an absolutely clean race. As I said, he won at Willow Springs. He's been in contention for the podium elsewhere, but has not been able to bring it home. And we'll see if that pit stop, he falls back to 7th on the cycle of pit stops, and there goes Bruce Law, putting him a lap down under the pit cycle, but Bruce himself still has to come in, so that'll come back to him.
I'm just looking at the time factor at the moment. You know, that 24 with a full tank, I don't know if it's going to get him to the end. You know what I mean? Even though he's filled it up and topped it up and he's going to go full belt, I just think
he might be short. Let's take a look at the in and out laps here, Muttley. Haynes' dad, that in lap on the pit was a 140.
Yeah.
So this is his out lap. Mm-hmm. I want to see what his out lap is. He comes in with a 140. This is what Paul Tracy used to talk about. This is the key part of the race here. And and this will read differently depending on where the guys are at on the pit lane, but it'll give you an idea. 140 on the out lap, or on the in lap, and he hits a 122 on the out lap.
Not bad.
Now we'll have to wait and see. That's a 140 and a 122 out and in for Haynes' dad. We'll see what numbers we got when the other guys come out. Meanwhile, Survivor fighting here with Taijo on his tail as they maintain the battle for third place. Taijo in a pretty good position here. I mean, McToastie's far enough back that where they're sitting, he's not losing a whole lot of ground in the points. It's your boy Squash, who's the closest to him, is back in 6th and is about 10 seconds behind him. So Taijo really is not in a bad spot here as long as he doesn't make a mistake or get involved in an incident. He's in a pretty good position. But as I was talking about earlier, Muttley, and you can discuss this too, especially if you're a more of a road racing specialist in the IndyCar Championship, you don't want to go. You want to have as much margin for error as possible going into the final race at Texas Motor Speedway, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's your boy Squash he's a speedway specialist, and Taijo does not want to have him anywhere close enough to really challenge him, to really be a worry going into that final race.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this season's with the yellows, it does change things for the ovals a bit. You know, we're not going to have...
For the better.
Yeah, definitely for the better. I agree. 100% agree with the change, because you got people crashing into each other, and you got wings suddenly taken off your car, and then everybody takes off, and it's not really your fault. It's going to make the racing better. If everybody gives everybody room there, you're going to have good close racing. It's just when the cars eventually lose a bit of aero on their cars, if they run on zero, like most of people will be in qualifying, and take a qualifying car out to the racetrack and think they can stick it through all the corners, so they're going to come unstuck.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. They always make that joke, Muttley, where they say these cars have so much downforce that if you could figure out how to do it, they would run upside down on the ceiling. They have so much downforce, but that's implying that you actually put downforce in the wing when you're driving it. They're not doing that. Oh, as we see Taijo lose it coming out of turn 11, I believe, and that's what we talked about right there. You get up on those curbs and problems can hit you pretty quick. He's got that thing back and going. I'm surprised he's not hitting the pit lane here. Must have flat spotted the tires, but that's the second time he's gone around today. And he was just on the tail of Survivor there. That lets just Piddlin get by him as well. And now all of a sudden, Ty Joe is back into the clutches of It's Your Boy Squash in 6th. There's Squash right behind him.
Bruce is going into pit lane. Oh, he just hit the sign. He just pulled it up.
Oh, Bruce Law making some contact coming into the pit lane. We'll see what his in-lap is as well. His in-lap's going to include the pit stop because he before the line, but he and McToasty both hitting the pit lane now. So we'll see what theirs look like. Bruce Law's done and done. Does not look like he made any repairs, so I guess he's going to live with maybe he didn't do any damage hitting that sign coming in.
131.
131 on the way in. As we said, it's going to be different based on where you're at on the pit lane. It's going to be probably a longer time.
133.
Yeah, 133 on the in, so he's definitely quicker right there getting into the lane. He's going to come out with a little bit of an edge there. Survivor now hitting the pit lane and just piddling right behind him. So 3rd and 4th coming in. And this is the key. I mean, your pit crews are racing against each other at this point.
Yeah.
Survivor came in first. They're going to be changing tires, taking fuel. Does he get out ahead of just piddling? He's rolling. And he does. Just Piddlin's just behind him. Ed Yeager onto the pit lane from a lap down. He's done a good job of keeping that thing pretty clean despite not running where he wants to be running. But Ed, as I was saying earlier, Muttley, that's a guy next week at Texas. He had a podium in Indy earlier this season. That's a guy on the Speedway who's going to be a contender to win it.
Yeah, you know, 117, that's a pretty quick lap.
Quick on the way in. Bruce came out, got 11 seconds on McToasty. Ty Joe has yet to pit, as has Squash. Haynes' dad. Yeah, Haynes' dad took 5 seconds on Survivor right there. And just Piddlin lost 3 seconds to Survivor coming out of the pit lane there. So things sorting out. Let's get back up to the battle for 3rd as Ty Joe trying to hold off It's Your Boy Squash. That's 1st and 2nd in the championship. And that's a big swing. Because Ty Joe finishes ahead right here. He goes in, 26, 27 points ahead going into Texas. You flip that roll, and that comes down to 20-21 points, somewhere around there. That's a big difference. That's somewhere in the range of clinching with a 6th place finish or clinching with a 9th, 10th place finish. Yeah, it looked like some bad luck there. Just Piddlin has lost a bit of time to Survivor on the way out. About 4.5, 5 seconds. And here comes Ty Joe into the pit lane. As comes It's Your Boy Squash. He comes around. He's got an early pit stall. Or I thought he did. He's just coming out of the pit lane. Here he goes. That was Squash getting into the lane early. We'll see who comes out the quickest. Ty Joe had to get on the brakes pretty hard there, so we'll see if he cost himself some time.
Well,
gets himself moving.
Having that first bay and you haven't done a practice, you soon learn how to pull a car up pretty quick.
Let's see what he's looking at. Yeah, he's come out behind. Yeah, he's come out quite a bit behind Ty Joe, who's now up and rolling. Haynes' dad managed to get by him there. Where's the rest of the crew? They're coming up not far behind. There's Squash coming out. He's about to get passed by Survivor. Just Piddlin's not far behind him. He's coming through. So this is definitely shaping up to be a very real battle. It's Your Boy Squash is right on Survivor now, who couldn't quite get by. Might be on the push to pass there. He definitely doesn't want to mess around with him. He needs to get by him now. And he does. We're down inside of 16 minutes here at Laguna Seca. And Squash, he's getting loose, but there goes Survivor. Survivor loses it. Fighting hard there. he tries to get it righted, he's going to lose position to Just Piddlin, who's now the one looking ahead at It's Your Boy Squash, who lost quite a bit of time there to Taijo on that pit stop. About 6.5, 7 seconds. So he's going to have to get on it as hard as he can to get back in here. Meanwhile, the battle...
21.
Yeah, meanwhile, he lost 3 seconds on the in-lap there. That's definitely 3 or 2.5 there on the in-lap, out-lap.
Yeah, I'd say what he's done is maybe he's gone past the pit and had a reverse. You know, wasn't expecting it to be that tight.
That's a distinct possibility, and I would not be terribly surprised. That looks about right for the timing there. Excuse me. All right, we got a battle for the podium.
127, so yeah, that's what I reckon. Wasn't expecting his pit bay to be right the first one, and it's a tight pull up, and
it's a tight pit lane here. I've been in that first lane, and yeah, it's definitely, it can catch you off guard. So let's see if Squash can make it back up. That is a big swing, and the thing is, we'll keep a look at their lap times, but Taijo's gone around twice, and he has dodged the bullet both times and not wadded up the car. So let's see if he can hang on to it, but he cannot afford to lose. I mean, he spins the car here and loses 2 or 3 positions to Squash, and it's a whole different race going into Texas for the championship. All right, meanwhile, Bruce Law is out front. He's nursing 10 seconds and looking very, very strong to pick up that 3rd consecutive win, as well as tie the all-time Flux IndyCar record with 4 overall wins with Cat Guy. He's coming up on some lap traffic now on Ed Yeager. Shouldn't have much of a problem getting by him here. Bruce running at the same pace still. He and McToasty still running pretty much the same speed. But Bruce has had more for him when they were close. And he's definitely put on a dominant performance. As I said, he's been a part-timer this season, not running for the championship. He just runs the road and street circuits. But he has been terrific on them. Target pays the money for him to put their name on the podium, and he does. As he's got 10 seconds there over McToasty. Came in 3rd in the championship, and looks like he, at the way they're running, could make up a little bit of ground on the guys in front of him. Enough to keep himself mathematically alive going into Texas, and that could mean a lot. If guys miss a race or disconnect, that keeps them still alive in the championship. But right now, I think he's just hoping against hope that something can come to him here and he can have a shot at moving up. All right, back to Haynesdad in the 83. Another long tradition of going back to the previous sanctioning bodies of Australian drivers in the IndyCar Championship. I've discussed this with you before, Muttley, many times over the years. Many of our Aussie and New Zealand drivers, I've talked about it with them more than once, and that is that there are, at least in places maybe, and maybe at particular points in time, I've had some old school Aussie drivers tell me that in Australia, IndyCar was as popular or more popular than F1. That there was I've had more than one Aussie driver tell me, me and my friends, none of us really watched F1 because, there wasn't that a lot of the drivers couldn't get a ladder feed back in the day from Australia into the Formula Series in Europe. So we saw a lot of them come here to the States, and of course with names, Australian and New Zealand names like Scott Dixon, Will Power, guys like that who have, Ryan Briscoe, guys who've been racing in IndyCar for a long time. It's one of those markets, much like Brazil, that IndyCar remains very popular internationally.
Yeah, well, I mean, when they did come out here, they went to Surfers Paradise, and I mean, they probably picked one of the Australians, reasonably good weather spots to go to, and I think the cars, the track, and the vibe they got at that place suited everything really, really well. I mean, you know, IndyCars at that time at surfers were going off, and that's how Power got his ride. He was, you know, at the time laundering in V8s, and somebody said, "Here, have this IndyCar and go for a spin and put down a reasonable time." And somebody went, "Oh, this guy could drive these cars." Well, let's,
exactly.
You know, let's give him a go and see how, you know, Penske went, you know, let's give him a go over here and see how he fares, and proof in the pudding, the guy can drive. Yeah.
We had a problem.
Oh, what's going on?
Got a timing issue, a penalty for Bruce, and I'm guessing he went off track. We're watching that battle for third place.
Oh,
Ed Yeager went around. No, that's not Ed. That's just Piddlin. Oh man,
okay.
He was running so good up in sixth. He has lost the wing and the back end. But here's the story, Bruce. I don't know how we didn't see the number coming down. I'm as always, I'm monitoring the splits even when we're watching another battle. But Bruce, he got a 1 second penalty, so it must be that he went off track. But now all of a sudden, as we're inside of 10 minutes, this race just got a whole lot more interesting. Suddenly McToastie's in the lead, and he's got Bruce Law on his tail. I think to wrap up, and Bruce loses it again. He must have some problem with that car. And I'm speculating here, Muttley, but is it possible that he banged up the suspension coming into the pit lane, chose not, or did not hit the button to repair it, and now as the tires wear, that car's starting to really feel crazy on him? But wow, that's why we tell you to watch to the finish at Flux Motorsport. I mean, did not see that coming. All of a sudden, he's definitely having a problem with that car. Bruce Law does not lose something like that. But suddenly McToastie's up in the lead. Wrapping up that conversation, though, Muttley, I think I've had talks. I think sports in general. I think Aussies and Aussies and New Zealanders and North Americans, Americans, Canadians, a lot in common in our sports in general, being that we developed independently, related to, but developed independently from the European sports that we played, before people immigrated. And I think in motorsports, there's a lot of similarity to that. I mean, you look at the motorsporting culture. V8 is basically Australia's NASCAR, and Australia has a similar issue with building up feeder series that can get their drivers into the top formula and sports car series in Europe. It's still a situation in both in America and Australia, where in a lot of those divisions, you got to go over to Europe if you want to advance. And I think IMSA's done a great job of addressing that here in the States. And that's why we've seen so many Australian sports car and formula drivers over here in the States, is to try to get a ride, to get their name out there, like you said, with a Will Power or with a Scott Dixon, guys who had to pay their way to get over here to get it done. But, well,
I mean, the newest one out there at the moment is Scotty McLaughlin. He's the newest guy out of New Zealand, which run 3 championships with Penske over here, while Penske was backing Dick Johnson, and he's over there running an IndyCar right now. So, and we're all watching him. We're all watching him like
absolutely. And that relates to our sim racing. You and I know from here in Flux and in our previous organizations we worked with, that the American Tour racing, we've always had, I'd say 25 to 35, if not more at times, depending on the discipline, percentage of drivers coming from Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. And I think that it just shows that motorsports in general, even the ones that are considered regional ones, like V8, NASCAR, IndyCar, stuff like that, they hold a worldwide popularity. There used to be that old saying in the music biz that, to get a hit single, it's got to get played on the radio. Well, how do you get played on the radio? You got to have a hit single. Well, how do you get a hit single? Well, you got to play it on the radio. The answer there being, people will buy and listen to whatever gets played on the radio. And my evidence is turn on the radio and listen to the crap that's on there and see what people buy. So the point is that, is are the biggest series like the F1 and the World Championships and sports cars, are those the most popular because they're the most popular, or because they are simply broadcast in the most markets? That becomes an interesting question. Personally, I think they've done a lot to improve the racing in all forms of motorsport lately. We're in a golden age in a lot of ways. But anyway, back to this race here, as we got the battle for third. As we said, Haynes' dad, Willow Springs winner, he has contended for the podium since, has been in this very position a couple of times, but something has come up for him. Let's see if he can hang on to it. He's got Taijo right on his tail, and Taijo is the point leader. He's got Squash right behind him. He's got McToasty up in the lead. He needs every point he can get, so getting on the podium would be a big deal for him. Meanwhile, up front, with Bruce Law's problems, McToasty's in the lead, but Bruce Law is right back on. I'm going to make a guess here and say there's a few more push-to-pass have been used. Yes, they have. Bruce Law is on this thing full blast, and we'll see what the lap is. He was 2 seconds quicker the last time by. That might have been traffic, but he's once again moving back in on McToasty, and the car doesn't look damaged, and perhaps it was just the worn tires catching him out, Muttley.
Could have been.
Bruce is as great as he's been in these cars, he is a part-time driver in these, so maybe he got caught off in just a late run change, hit one of those pockets where the tire wear was a little off. It messed up the balance with the fuel burn and just caught him off guard there. This is a tough track. They can get the best out, but here he is coming back on it. 109.0 to 109.9. He gained almost a second that last time, so this thing is still not over. And once again,
he's got none left. He's got no pushes past left, so
yeah, he has nothing to defend with here. So this is going to get real interesting here. 3.5 minutes to go. We got a battle for the podium shaping up. We got a battle for the win shaping up. As always in a Flux race, it's coming down to it here in the Flux IndyCar Championship.
Yeah, Taijo's creeping up on Hainstad here.
Yeah, here he comes. Right on him as they come through the Andretti hairpin. We'll keep an eye up front here as Bruce Law is definitely moving in. But Haynes' dad trying to hold off the point leader, Taijo. Give me a push-to-pass report on these guys, Muttley.
Okay. Taijo's got 4. Haynes' dad's got 9.
All right, so Haynes' dad, one of two things here, bud. He either has 9 or
he just went down to 8.
Okay, so he does. I was going to say he either has 9 or he forgot to hit the button, and he doesn't have one. He doesn't have the button set for it, and it burned 1 at the start. But no, he used 1 now, so he's got an advantage, 8 to 4 now. With this much time left, Haynes is going to be using it on every straightaway, and he's looking like a genius. Remember what I said about don't use them till you have to? Well, now he has to, and now the fact is, Taijo is, if Haynes is smart, Taijo doesn't have a straightaway left where he's not going to have a guy on push to pass in front of him. So this might become a near impossible task to make the pass.
Yeah, fuel levels are a worry on Hainstad. He's down to 13, and Taijo, he's got 33, so he's got plenty. He can use Hainstad. Well,
that's a good point, mate. I don't know. They got maybe 2 or 3 laps left. I think they're probably safe, but you never know.
I'm just saying if Hainstad's starting to use the push to pass, that 13 litres ain't going to last long.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh,
there goes somebody.
There goes Taijo. And Taijo, that battle might be over. He might just have to try to settle in here and get 4th place and take what he can get.
No, somebody else was surfing sideways down the back there. I didn't see who it was.
Yeah, Taijo might just have to try to settle.
Maybe that's what happened to Bruce with Ed, how he lost his wing, and maybe he threw a whole lot of dirt on the track and Bruce hit that.
That's entirely possible, and like you said, Bruce the car hasn't looked as stable through the corkscrew the last several laps either, but he's still chopping up time, and he's right back in there. He lost time again. Here we go now. Where they're at, this is going to be the white flag. McToasty's going to be taking the white flag as they come by here. And as you said, he has no push to pass to defend. So we are on the final lap here at Laguna Seca. McTosty's got his first IndyCar win at Long Beach earlier this season, looking to get his second win of the season, and Bruce Law is right on him.
Yeah, and on his push the pass, by the looks of it, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know that this is the area you're going to get much out of it, though.
No, he's still got one left.
He's going to be saving that for the Ray Hall Straight, I'll bet you, heading into the corkscrew. That's where I would use it. All right, here they come. He's setting them up. McTosty's as smart as they come. He has got to be flawless here. Hits a little bit of dirt. He's trying to take his line. And great defensive driving by McTosty. Didn't block him, but didn't give him anywhere to take that run. And let's see if he can hang on. Bruce is coming out. And they head to the final turn. Is there anything left for McTosty from Bruce Law? And I don't believe so. I think McTosty's going to hang on and get his second win of the season. Bruce Law is going to have to wait for another day to match the record. Wild drama here. Let's get back. Got anything close here? Taijo suddenly has squash on him. This is going to be an interesting battle right here towards the finish. Taijo fourth, squash, that's 1-2 in the points. So a big 6-point swing right there as they come down to the finish. Taijo hangs on here, and a 4-point swing. He'll come up with this is the difference between leaving here with a 26 or a 22-point advantage heading into Texas. Taijo heading into the corkscrew. It looks like Squash has got a little more car right now, but I don't think it's going to matter. Taijo fighting that front end, though. You can see that car pushing. Chassis balance not quite perfect. Here comes Squash with everything he's got, but Taijo takes the line beautifully, holds them off, and will end up with fourth place. All right, here are your final results from the Flux Motorsport 2021 Season 2, Round 7 of the IndyCar Championship at Laguna Seca in a wild one. McTosty will come from the pole, actually, ultimately comes from the pole to take the victory with major drama over Bruce Law at the finish, who will be on the podium with a second-place run after leading much of the race. Shout out to Haynes' dad in the 83 Ganassi Chevrolet. He comes home with his second podium of the season and finishes in third. The points leader, Taijo, brings it home in fourth and will bring that points lead to Texas for the finale next weekend, looking to clinch. It's your boy Squash drives home in a bit of a hard luck fifth place. He had a fast car today, couldn't quite wrap it together. Survivor will come home in sixth. Just Piddlin damaged that car towards the end and wound up having to settle for seventh. And Ed Yeager will wind up the race in eighth place.
Yeah, and an extra point goes to Bruce for the fastest lap.
Yeah, Bruce will gather that point, so it takes it away from the championship contenders. But just a fantastic show. A big surprise there with about 10 minutes to go. Bruce Law running into trouble with the car, and McTosty passes him, gets his second win of the season after Long Beach, and moves up a little bit. He's going to gain enough ground on Taijo to stay mathematically alive in the championship coming into
Texas.
Yeah, coming to Texas next week. But it's definitely going to be an absolute shootout. Hope to see some of the road course regulars come out for that race and make it a little interesting. Guys like Bruce Law and the like would be awesome. But once again, great performance. Anything final thoughts, Muttley?
No, it was real close racing, and enjoy Flux, buy their merchandise, get onto the website and join up and come racing.
Absolutely, fluxmotorsport.com. Once again, for Muttley, this is Carlin Hicks signing off here at Laguna Seca. We'll see you next week for Week 8. The American Tour will be at the Texas Motor Speedway. We've got the Europeans and championships of the GT1 and touring cars Thursday and Tuesday, respectively, at 8 p.m. UK time. We will see you there. All right, have a good night, folks.